Previously on Katie's vlog.
Hi everyone, my name is Erin Field.
I think the mental piece is the hardest part.
My high school kids, my younger kids, they don't have that. You understand the foundational stuff of this to such a higher level.
Our athlete-coach relationship is really like huge.
My philosophy with throwing for 5 years.
I've already had an entire athletic career. And so like coming into throwing, I'm older than all of these girls. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't done this. I didn't do this in high school. And but having people like you who are like, no, like you've got this. And like people who support me and like coaches who are like, let's do it. Like you want to do it, let's do it. Like I think that's huge. And it's, you know, like I might not be built for this. I honestly thought I was going to be like a phenomenal shot putter. Like I was like, oh, this is going to be my throw.
You walked in here the first day and I was like, she'll be able to throw the shot good, but you are built for throwing hammer.
Yeah.
Built for throwing hammer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do the Olympic lifts. It's a hammer throw through and through. Yeah. Like that was my, and you just got it.
Yeah.
You got it. A couple practices, like we could tell. I mean, great at shot put. Like you can throw the shot.
Yeah.
You get this.
Yeah.
You can't, this is either you get it or you don't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah. And I think like having people, just building that environment for yourself as an athlete and as a person of people who like see your strengths, understand your weaknesses, and allow you to kind of supportively reach your goals and like recognize like, all right, like you want to do this, let's do it, let's figure out how to do it. I think that's huge. And I think like your story about like your coaching and choosing your college and all of that, like I think it's so understated, like just the environment in which people thrive. And I think as an athlete too, like I can spend as much time in the gym as I want. I can spend as much time out here throwing as I want. But if I'm not surrounded by people who are supportive and helping me reach my goals, like I can't do this alone.
yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, for me, like we talked about, like I was out. I was like, get me as far away from home as possible. I want a new environment, something new. Started going through schools, and I mean, I fell in love with UConn. Like, in love. I was like, done deal. I'm going, like, move in tomorrow. And I met the coach, and I walked in, and they looked at me, and they told me that she goes, you're the hammer thrower? I said, yeah. She goes, you're too small to be a hammer thrower. And I shook it off. I mean, I was 17 at the time. I was like, whatever, like, I can do this. And I went on my visit at URI, and I was reluctant to go because it was 10 minutes from home, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to go far away. And I went, and I met my coach, and I walked into her office, and she walked in at 5'2" and an All-American hammer thrower, and never once in the course of, I mean, I've known her for 7 years now, never once has looked at me and said, you're too small, you're not strong enough, you're not XYZ. She looked at me and was like, let's do it, like, let's go. And she looked at me the same way from the day I walked in here to the day I left. And that was the course of injuries and meet anxiety like you wouldn't believe. And she was always in my corner, had my back, let's go, let's throw as far as we can. And that was different every year, you know? Some years I'm coming back from injury and it was, okay, let's try and hit 54 meters this year. You know, that was the goal. And then there was the years of, let's aim for prelims. And she had my back 100%. And that was the moment I knew when I walked in there, and she was smaller and shorter than I was, but still was an All-American hammer thrower. Like, that's the moment I knew when that was home. No one ever told me I wasn't enough there. And I wouldn't change the 5 years for anything. But that's my coaching philosophy now, is all of my athletes I got some girls that are 5'10" and the longest legs ever, and I have some girls that are 5'2" and the tiniest little things, but there's goals for all of them, and all of them have things that they want to achieve, and that's my job as a coach, is to help them get to that point, not tell them that they're not tall enough, not strong enough, not whatever. It's to help them get to where they want to be and help them set reasonable goals. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially in women's sports, is we're always told, like, you're not whatever, but it's showing up in the body that we're in and pushing that body to its athletic potential. And that's going to look different for everybody, but it's my job as a coach to help everyone get there and not to tell them no.
Yeah. I think that's such a tribute to you as a person and a coach. And I think, I think anybody could call themselves a coach. I think anybody could write a program, anybody could, coach athletes. But I think something that separates like coaches from great coaches is just like taking what you have and kind of forcing yourself to stretch a little. Is this person built for this sport? I don't know, maybe not. But that makes it my job to now say, all right, what do you have? How do we capitalize on your strengths? And how do we build your weaknesses? And I think that's a thing that people miss is like, there are a million people who come in who are, athletic, who are strong, who are whatever, but how do I, as a coach, make you better? And I think it's hard to be a coach when you're not handed all of the perfect tools and scenarios and environments, but on you, if you can do that and you can use what you have and help an athlete grow and gain that confidence to just be better. And I think that's huge. And I think that says a lot about you as a coach. And I think it's, I think it's what sets you apart as a coach is I'm not going to tell you no. And I think, of course, you have to be realistic about perhaps there's something that's like better suited for you. But I think that if you're willing to push yourself as a coach and make yourself a little uncomfortable, I think that's what separates a coach from a good coach. And I think that's huge. And I think that's something that too, like for me, even just kind of stepping into throwing, like I've never been a rotational athlete. So for me, like this is all new. And so I'm having to pick the brains of people who are way better at this. And I'm, kind of tapping into people's expertise. And, when I'm designing strength and conditioning program, I'm also tapping into coaches who have coached athletes like this. I'm kind of like trying to do my own research on these movements and what do I need to strengthen here and where am I in space and how do I gain better core control and all of these things. And I think like it stretches you as a coach to not be in your comfort zone and in your wheelhouse and have to tap into more utilities and more resources.
Yeah, I mean, I think my foundations, my philosophy as a coach is stemmed from the amazing coaches that I've had throughout my life. Like I can sit here and tell you that I have been so blessed with the coaches that I've had. Like I can rave about every single one of them, and I've learned so much from all of them. I mean, I trained with some of the best hammer throwers in the country. Like, and that was a testament to the program that I grew up in. I mean, Amo's now the coach at UVA. He's coached multiple NCAA champions and Olympians, and just watching him build that, I always knew like that's a coach I want to mimic. Like his growing up in my foundational years as a hammer thrower with him every single day, he pushed me to that breaking point. I'm not gonna lie, like he pushed me harder than I ever thought I could go, but it was worth every single second. And I learned so much about him, learned so much from him about how to be a better athlete, a better strength and conditioning coach, a better throwing coach, like all of that. And I don't think without him, without Crystal, I would not be where I am today. Like those two coaches formed my coaching philosophy, my passion for all of this. And like I watched him coach NCAA champions and me in the same practice and tailor like goals and expectations to each of us. And he never made me feel like I was less than the girl that was throwing before me and throwing 20 meters further than I was. And that was always something that I admired and respected about him, is he pushed me where I was. He didn't push me to be the same as somebody else or be better than somebody else. It was, how can Erin be better than Erin was yesterday? And that's my biggest thing, is I'll never compare two of my kids because they're both different. They all have different strengths. Like your strengths are so much different than my high schoolers, than the college kids that I coach. And that's something that I think is huge, is every athlete, especially in this sport, is it's individual. Like you are you, and how can we make you the best version of you? Not how can I make you better than the kid next to you, or the, like, yeah, I ran out of thoughts there. But like how there was, we were going like so good. No, literally, it was like, oh. Yeah, that's
what little car you were talking about.
Right. Like you have so much more experience, and 10 times the lifter that I ever was. Like, but it's pushed me so much to learn, okay, this is what makes Katie Katie. How can we make Katie the best thrower possible? And like the way that I coach you is so different than anyone else. Like you have so much experience, so much knowledge of everything. And I mean, the Highland is another piece of this. It's like a whole other, yeah, the thoughts are not thoughting right now, but it's a whole other piece of this equation that is so different than any of the other kids, you know, and you have such a strong background in strength and conditioning, which most of the kids I work with don't, you know. I'm the first strength and conditioning coach they've had. So for you to come in with such knowledge of that, it's made this 10 times easier than a kid that doesn't have that background. And I talk to you in such a different way than I do a 16-year-old, you know, and it's been fun to kind of see that relationship like unfold.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like for me too, like as an athlete and a coach, I think I've learned how to be more flexible. And I think like coming from a sport in weightlifting that is so just regimented and regulated, every single day you're doing the same lifts every single day. And so like I think going from that and just having such a like high level idea of that sport and that training to kind of now I'm learning Olympic hammer and shot, and I'm also learning the Highland Games throws on top of the lifting. Like, so now I'm learning like two separate sports, and trying to figure out how to be a better athlete in both. And then like figuring out how do I do this? Like you know, and I think something that like I've always really appreciated about you is like I came in here, I said, listen, I want to do Highland Games. Like I need to get better. And you like immediately just like started researching things. You were like, all right, like I looked at these throws, I did this, like let me see the implements. And I think that's huge as a coach because like even myself, I'm like, how do I program for this? I'm like, I don't really know. Like, what do I do? Where do I think that this is probably how I need to get better. And so like running a program for 4 weeks and being like, yeah, that helped, or like, no, that was literally useless. Why did I do that? Let me do this time. So I think that's been huge. And I think like pushing yourself and being more flexible as an athlete and coach is, I think I've learned a ton from you and working with you. And I think just kind of learning these new sports, like I think it's been huge. And it's really like hard, honestly. Like it's been really, really frustrating, but it's just been so much fun to just like dive in and just be like, all right, like let's figure it out.
Yeah. The Highland piece has been interesting for me because I obviously had no experience with any of it before I met you. And I think we've obviously focused more of our training on the Olympic track and field events, but I think a lot of things that we learn here and a lot of the cues I give you are things that translate over to the Highland stuff really well. That's why we put such an emphasis on hammer, and in the winter we will put a big emphasis on weight and have you compete in those because they do overlap so much. And I think that's been the biggest thing, is it's so interesting to see how this develops and how the Highland stuff plays into this. Like it's been a whole new world for me, and it's been a lot of fun to learn about. I mean, the Highland Games I knew nothing about, and now I feel like I know, like, and I get so invested into it. And it was fun. Like I met Katie for the first time and I went home and I went down this rabbit hole of like the Highland Games throwing events, and it's awesome. I mean, it's super cool to watch you kind of navigate this weightlifting background that you have, but also adding into pretty much brand new sports and figuring out how to find success in those.
This is so fun, guys.